Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm Eoin Devereux, news and sports reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you once again to our show. Joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn, our news reporter with the Banner Press as well. Casper, always good to have you here.
Good to be here, and I'm joining you for the last episode of this series for the year, really.
Is this like the shocking cliffhanger episode? I mean, we got to come up with something suspenseful to bring him back in the new season.
Oh, definitely. We gotta think of something real quick by the end of the show there. Just reel him right in.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully the news will be more than enough to be able to reel you back into the new year. This episode's going to be slightly different, a little bit of a special version, as we will be covering the December 24th and the December 31st editions. For those of you that might be wondering how we know about the future of news, all we did essentially is the 31st is our year in review. So we were able to figure out the future of the news by looking back. And we'll go even more in depth into that, literally and figuratively, a little later on in the show. But before we do that, let's talk about the December 24th edition. Santa Paws is coming to town. On the front page of our paper, even though this isn't the official one, this is just our little cheat sheet for when we do this show. You'll have to pick up a full-size version of the paper somewhere in Neepawa or on mywestman.ca. You can see it online. You'll be able to see this beautiful picture of Santa Claus with this pup. Now, what happened was one of our new businesses that everybody seems to be pretty hyped about, Rockin' Animal House, had a Santa Claus come for a little visit for all the furry and four-legged friends of Neepawa and area to find out what they wanted for Christmas. And there was a photo op there, so we were able to go down there and get some pictures. The front page picture is really great. I really like that. The dog's well behaved, and Santa just seems to be having a great time there. I went down there for a few minutes, Casper, and it did look like it was a whole heck of a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was taking a look at, of course, the photos that Diane got from the photographer there, and then just on her phone as well. And Gracie was just absolutely loving it. And looking at the photos you took as well, all the pets seemed really into it. Got a nice little visit with Santa, maybe a little bit of a treat. And the owners, of course, got a nice photo out of it. And it's a very nice way to kick off the festive season for sure.
That's right. You can see the pictures on page 1, of course, and a few extra pictures of another dog that came in on page 11. I was down there for a few minutes myself just to check things out on the Saturday, and it did look like everybody was having a whole heck of a lot of fun. All the pets, for the most part, I didn't see any that were not well behaved. They were all just sort of there and just curious, wandering around the store, looking around for stuff, probably making their list in their heads, and no, it was great, and it's great to have a business like that in town as well. It's really nice to be able to see them get into the spirit of things so quickly.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, it's good to have a business like this in town that really specializes towards, the needs of your pets, because there's a lot of people in town that have pets, so it's a very good market for them. Absolutely.
We always emphasize on this show as well, if you can, shop local. That is the most important thing. And for the longest time, a pet store like this, we didn't have something local like this. So you had to go to Brandon or to Portage La Prairie or even perhaps Winnipeg to get these types of things. So don't disregard and don't take for granted when local businesses, specialty businesses like this come to town. So Merry Christmas to them and all their four-legged friends, obviously, from the Banner Press. There were so many other festive things that were going on. And Casper, you had an opportunity to see one of them yourself over at Arts Forward. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a gala event there, a very special one actually. This art was on display for the month of December, but there was a little gala event held there on December 16th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. there. And it was an exhibit featuring a bunch of art from students from HMK there, from kindergarten to, I think, grade, 6? Hopefully I got that right. But the correct details will be in there for sure, so be sure to look at that. But yeah, it was for all the parents to come and see the art on the walls with their kids, and very, very unique experience for the kids, obviously. It's sort of like their first taste of getting their art up in a gallery for people to see. And a lot of the kids were having fun just going around being like, oh yeah, this one's mine, I did this way, etc., etc. And there's a lot of good variety in there. There's, variations of Vincent van Gogh's painting, some snowmen, some bears, some pumpkins in there, a whole bunch of different things. It just really shows the creative minds of these kids.
What I thought was interesting, though, as well, is it looks like it was through the entire semester, through all the seasons, Remembrance Day, Halloween, Christmas to a degree as well. It's nice to see all the art they've been doing over the last few months sort of get that opportunity.
Yeah, it had a really good selection there. Obviously there's a lot of projects that you go through in a year, so everybody sort of picked the things that they liked and wanted to put on display, and yeah, very good selection there, and I'm glad that people got to take the time out and check it out.
What's really neat about this, and quite honestly, maybe about the holiday season in general, maybe when we turn into adults, we get a little jaded about these types of things, and to see children just so amped, so energized about having their work showcased. And even for us, Casper, maybe we're getting a little jaded. I mean, we see our names on bylines each and every week, and it's like, it is what it is. But do you remember the first byline you had, or the first picture, or anything like that, the first story? And do you remember the energy as like, oh, wow, type thing?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact story off the top of my head, but it's certainly an experience having that first little bit of your name on the page. It's like, wow, I got my first story done. It's out there, it's printed. Or like, I've got this photo that I'm really happy with, and it's like actually on a paper where people are going to see it, And that's something that actually the Arts Forward director, Yvonne Sisley, talked about as well when I was there, is just that, everybody in their profession starts somewhere. And in terms of art, it's things like this where people start out a lot of the time. It's just these small things when you're a kid, and it means a lot to you. So I'm glad that that this could happen around this time of year. It really just feels like it fits with the holiday spirit.
That's right, and it's wonderful to be able to showcase them and their time and effort and their art in this way. Kudos to HMK, kudos to Arts Forward for putting it up there, and we are very glad that we were able to get some pictures of it and to be able to share it with you right here in this week's edition of the Banner Press. If you'd like to see it for yourself, the information is in the story there. There's still a little bit of time, I'm sure, there that you can go down, check it out. Definitely take the opportunity if you can. And even if you do miss it, head down to head down to Arts Forward to check out any and all of their exhibits. Much like Rock in the Animal House, don't take these types of facilities in your community for granted. Because if you do, they'll disappear. And who wants that? A little bit of art in a small town like this, it's much appreciated and needs to be given that consideration. Let's shift over. There's so much. Unlike most of the year, Casper, it feels like this is a really positivity for the most part paper. Just nothing but good news, it seems.
Yeah, it's a very nice change of pace, isn't it?
It is. We'll get into the some of the other stuff later on, but all this positivity to begin is just a nice way to segue into Christmas. And part of that is people taking a little bit of their own time, volunteering, and helping out a worthy and important cause. And that happened when volunteers, some high school students, some members of the Yellowhead Chiefs hockey team, and some local individuals took their time out to go down to Neepawa Community Ministry Center, local branch of the Salvation Army, and to help out with their Christmas hamper campaign. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to put those hampers together. We've talked about it over the years, this time of year, every time. And the unfortunate thing is, each and every year as it progresses, it feels like that number of people that need support and need a Christmas hamper seems to go up just a little bit incrementally each and every year. So people seeing beyond themselves, seeing beyond their family or their friends, and seeing the society in general and wanting to do something to help, even if it's just wrapping up a hamper for a couple hours. That's important. That's very significant. And we're very pleased to be able to sort of share some of those pictures of those people who took the time out on the between the 15th and the 17th of December to put those hampers together. They were distributed to a total of, I believe, 129 families in and around the Neepawa area this year, Casper. It's a program that's very important.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've talked about it before, but the Neepawa Community Ministry Center has obviously mentioned that the need in the community for this type of stuff has risen over the years. So it's wonderful to see everybody getting out there to pitch in a helping hand, I should say. Lending hand. I don't know how you can lend a hand. Well, there's ways. But yeah, it's incredible to see everybody coming together for this.
And as well, there's another picture in the paper that sort of touches on this as well. Local senior hockey team, the Neepawa Farmers, as part of the Tiger Hills Hockey League. We did the story and we did the follow-up on it. They did an event at their last home game of the 2021 season. They played against the Minnedosa Bombers. They came away with a 3-1 victory, but even more important than that as well, they were able to do a fundraiser for the ministry center as well. Non-perishable food items, people brought them in. People brought in teddy bears and other toys for those that are in need. After the first goal was scored in the game, you were allowed to throw the teddy bears onto the ice, much like the big leagues do with the teddy bear tosses. I got to say, the one thing that was a little disappointing about that, Casper, was, but it was considerate. It was considerate of the people, was that they had them wrapped in plastic bags because you don't want any of the fur or the fabrics or anything on the ice because, you know, when you're skating, you can catch an edge on that and you can hurt yourself.
Right.
So they had them in the bag. So visually, it wasn't as interesting as it could have been. A big pile of bears. It looked just like a big pile of plastic. But still, the more important thing than that, though, is that it was a big pile.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you always want things like this to get a good amount of support. So I'm very glad that that it had that.
That's right. And as well, they had some of the youngsters from Neepawa Minor Hockey help out with some of the intermission festivities. And you can see a picture of all those youngsters. You can find it on page 11, right next to the pictures of the pets and Santa Claus from what we talked about a little bit earlier at Rockin' the Animal House. Very picture progressive paper this week. Let me try to say that 3 times in a row. Well, maybe not. But no, it's great. Sometimes you can tell the story with the visuals so much more than you can with the words. And these are a very good example of that this year. All right. Segueing slightly, still talking to a degree about hockey, but again, essentially what's been happening off the ice. Neepawa Titans Junior A Hockey Club held their annual cash lottery recently. It's a big event. It's a big fundraiser for the team, enabled for them to continue to operate and continue to play in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. 20 or 25,000 this year? No, I gotta take a quick look just to refresh my memory. It was 20,000 with 5 $1,000 secondary prizes. Were recently announced at the Titans' last home game of this year. And what I liked about this, Casper, is for the most part, with the exception of one of the 1,000 giveaways and the 50-50, every winner was from Neepawa, including the $20,000 winner, Tyler Lazaruk of Neepawa, who won the big prize. And we were able to get a picture of Trevor with general manager and head coach Ken Pearson the other day. And you can find that on page 10 of the Banner Press. It was a big success. They're very pleased with the amount of participation and support that they've been getting on this. And congratulations to each and every one of the winners. And even the 50-50 though. 50-50 ended up being $8,125. God, I could do so much with that. Right about, especially during the holidays. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. It's a fairly decent prize, I would say. Definitely some good early Christmas presents for everybody involved. But yeah, it had if I remember correctly, it had the potential to, depending on sales, be a jackpot of like 20,000 as well, which is just incredible. So the fact that it almost got 10 there was quite something. I don't know how that compares to last year. By any chance, do you know?
Well, last year, off the top of my head, I don't remember if they did it last year because of the situation with the pandemic and all that. And I'll be honest with you as well. Quite honestly, the last 19 to 20 months have just all blended together, as I'm sure they have for you as well.
I know they certainly have for me. I don't even know how we got to Christmas already.
I don't know how we got to 2022. We're on the cusp of it right now. It's like, wow. Oh my goodness.
It's mind-boggling. Honestly, it really is.
And we're going to get even more into that when we touch on the December 31st edition in just a little bit here. But congratulations to Tyler and all the rest of the winners of this year's cash draw. You can find a list of the full winners on page 6. Of course, obviously, the people who have won have already been alerted. I'm sure they've already received their checks, and congratulations. And hopefully we'll see them all again participating next year. So, all right. Another contest, and you most likely saw this as well in the pages of the Banner Press, was one of our own, the Shop Hometown event. We've been hyping that up on our pages for the last couple weeks, and you probably saw all the bags and whatnot in the stores throughout Neepawa. We finally picked the winners. It was kind of funny because there were so many names in there. We had to get like a washing machine or dryer box to fit them all in there.
Yeah, it was a very full box.
Yeah.
I don't remember if Ken tried to reach in it himself, but Dan here did a really, really big reach down to the bottom there for him a few times to help pick out names for it. It was a lot of papers, so thank you everyone for participating in that and helping us, but not just that, helping the other businesses as well that have collaborated with us on this. We really appreciate it.
That's right. There were 3 big winners, and we got the pictures of those winners on page 19 of the December 24th edition of the Banner Press. But there were over 80 other winners claiming prizes of all different sizes, all different degrees. Wanted to be able to share some of that with people in and around Neepawa. And we really do mean this. You're going to get sick of me saying this, but local means something, and shopping local means something as well. And this is a good example of that. Hopefully people will take their winnings and shop local for all these businesses that supported us, and we support them, and hopefully you support them as well. So congratulations to the Shop Hometown winners. All right, before we shift over to our December 31st edition, we're just going to acknowledge something that is in the December 24th edition, and that is letters. That is a lot of letters. We ended up having to take almost 2.5 pages of our 20-page paper and just give it to letters. We had, I believe, 7 different letters just in this paper. We have 3 more in the December 31st edition. All different topics. Obviously, the situation with COVID-19 was one of the big discussion points. I'm not going to get into because we've heard from both sides of perspective on this. We got a couple. The one thing I will say I like is that some people with some actual, okay, that didn't come out right. Some people with some knowledge on it, some doctors are contacting us now. We have a couple researchers and physicians and whatnot who contacted us for the 24th edition. We have another researcher and a physician and an individual with some very, very credible background sharing some of the information in the 31st edition. One supportive of some of Ken's perspective, one is not. We want to be fair, quite honestly, and that's what we do. Like, we don't agree with each and every letter that comes in, personally, but as long as there isn't any sexist, racist, derogatory comments in there, we will give people their fair chance to share their perspective on that. Please remember, though, it's their perspective, it's their opinion. News is news, fact is fact, a letter is a letter, and opinion is opinion. So always take this with a grain of salt. Because sometimes we talk about in the office, sometimes it turns into a tennis match, it seems, Casper. Opinions bandying back and forth, and it just, oh my God, it's like, God.
Yeah, it can be tiresome for sure, getting all the different opinions, just ping-ponging back and forth. And of course, sometimes we'll have the same individuals writing letters, like sort of combating each other, so to speak. But another thing to keep in mind as well is that, of course, with the paper, there's only so much space for these things. And if we get a lot of letters, well, we have to work with the space. So we might not be able to fit in all of them. And in that case, we always try to put in the ones that came in first, and then whatever we couldn't fit in that came in later on, we try to get into the next edition. Of course, barring any reason to not run them in that case, and then in that case we don't. But that very rarely happens, so we always get a very wide array of opinions in here.
And the one thing as well, I want to emphasize this as well, the 2 letters from the researchers, physicians, the doctors that I mentioned earlier are much longer than 400 words, and we didn't cut them because we wanted the information to be crystal clear from these individuals. But in 2022, I do want to emphasize this as well, we will be very stringent, very strict on that, because the letters are getting a little out of control. The sheer size of them, it's getting a little out of control. So we're trying to reel that in. If you can't share your perspective in that amount of time, well, I'm sorry. We're going to have to draw the line somewhere. And we still do want your opinions. We want your perspectives, even if we don't agree with them. If we agree with them wholeheartedly, or if we disagree with them wholeheartedly, we want to have that interaction, that interplay. It is appreciated. It really is. All right, let's move on to one last final bit of positivity before we end out the final show for 2021. And that is our look back at 2021. And with that, you're getting a sneak peek here right now. If you're watching the December 24th edition of the Banner Press, you're seeing into the future the front page for the December 31st edition, back to 2021. We went with a Back to the Future sort of motif with the fonts and the style and all that. We were feeling a little fun with that. Casper was able to track down some of the fonts there and get them on the computers there, and we really enjoyed. We try and change it up each and every year to give it a new look, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over, it just gets really. Yeah,
like obviously there's at a certain point there's probably only so many things you can do, but you gotta try and shake it up a little bit. Keep it fun, keep yourself interested, of course, and make it fun for yourself as you're going back through the years and looking at the different things that happened. And there was actually quite a bit of fun putting this section together and just taking it all in, because again, this year went by really fast. Things really blurred together. And putting this section together, we really got to take a good look at everything that happened this year.
What was interesting as well, and we talked about this in the office, it felt like for the most part, March was the only month where it was like, there's not that much interesting or cool that really happened. There were still things that happened there. Obviously, Chicken Corral, the changing of ownership, the changing of the name and all that was one of the big stories from March. But March was the only one where it was like, yeah, everything else had either an interesting visual or a very significant story that went with it. So we're very appreciative of that. It gives us a moment when you're in the job, Casper, and I'm sure you probably agree on this. When you're in the job, you're sort of stuck in that train of thought of just getting the work done. When you're done, you sort of look back at it, it's like, wow, this was a heck of a year.
Yeah, you really sort of in this line of work are focused in on, okay, I need to get this done. Okay, it's done. We have to work on the next one, and it just keeps going and going. So we don't really sort of pause to really take a look at it after the work is done sometimes. But this really gave us the opportunity to do so. And yeah, there's just a lot of fantastic things that happened this year, like the Grizzly initiative there that happened in April. We have a photo there for you, so you can take a look at that wonderful, wonderful, cute photo of Grizzly with that plushie again. The housing developments, that was another big one in April. And just so many other things.
Let me ask you for your opinion on this there. And it just occurred to me, was there one that just sort of jumps out at you as you thought was sort of interesting or your favorite? Or was there anything that just sort of...
Oh, goodness. That is a very good question. There's so many things that we covered that actually really did mean a lot to me in one way or another. And I think one of those, and we didn't have it in the year in review, but one thing that happened this year that was really special to me was being able to help someone in the community celebrate their 100th birthday. And they were a veteran of, I don't remember which wars, probably 2, I think that time
that would make sense time-wise.
Yeah. And I really got to help make his birthday special by getting the story out there. And, just seeing the response that people in the community had to it and people outside the community, because he got cards from all over the place. That was a really special one for me. I
feel so bad now. I had forgotten about that. That's the example of that. Now you've refreshed my memory on it. It was like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah, and of course the Legion here, they got a statue donated, and that is featured here in the September edition. I honestly can't remember that happening in September, but very thoughtful gift there in September donated to Legion. Very wonderfully done, hand carved, painted, just wonderful, wonderful statue. So I hope people take a look at that on page 10 as well. And really just take a look through all the different photos, because we have lots of good ones, not just in-house, but ones that were submitted to us as well for different things, such as Farmers Advocate covers that we have featured. So
yeah. I'd say for me, probably 2, just very quickly. Name change for the former Neepawa natives. Anyone who knows me knows I've sort of been iffy on the name previously. Neepawa Titans and the whole new look, the whole new thing, it's taken off. I'm very pleased to see that. And as well, the Makers Market, but this little selfish reasons as well, since I'm the board chairman for Neepawa Tourism. Neepawa Tourism assisted with the preparation for the Makers Market. One of our board members, Kelsey Wilson, was involved with that, and she did a tremendous job. We were very pleased to be able to help with that. And those are the types of things we hope to continue to be able to do in 2022. And it's one of the things the Neepawa Banner Press hopes to be able to support and cover in 2022 as well. We can't do that without your help. If you have any news tips, you can call us at or email us, I should say, at news@neepawabanner.com, or call us at 476-3401. So, again, for Casper, I'm Eoin, and for the Neepawa Banner Press, for NACTV, and for the story behind the stories, we thank you for spending your time with us in 2021 and hope you can do the same in 2022. Merry Christmas.